everybody, and welcome to the Roundtable. I'm Luna, and this week's subject, what is memory? And sitting with us on the table today, we have Sharon, Jules, Maliah, Donny, Nese, and Bernays, and our corner seat Polly will be coming later, I hope, because we miss him dearly. Anyway, so back to what we're doing. What is memory? I just forgot then. We're going to have some fun with this. What is memory? So, is memory an exact science? Or is it just electrical energy running through the wires of our brain? Is our spirit in control of everything that we remember? And can our memory be manipulated? Does memory have a certain capacity? Are we limited to what we can remember? Or is there a trigger in there that allows us to remember everything? We've heard memory being used in such things like past life memory, body memory, soul memory. Objects, places and water, stone, trees and crystals have memory. And when we dream, is that a part of our memory? Or is that a separate thing? And if it is does it add to our life? Those dream memories add to our life memories. So join us now as we discuss these things, and I'm sure we'll have more questions. So what is memory, everyone? Anyone want to go first, or do you want me to keep raving? I'll keep going. Well, I've got to say this. Memories like the corners of my mind.
No, I was with you, Luna. I was just writing down some little notes.
Sharon put it up. Look, I'm not going to sing it now.
No, you can sing it. I was going to use it too. That's hilarious. Great minds. Right, but you did it first, Luna. You go.
Great minds think alike, they reckon. That's what we're all doing here. So, yeah, memory is a tricky thing. And it's a bit of a touchy subject for me because at the moment, someone I love dearly is slowly losing their memory, and it's kind of scary. And when this subject come up, memory, which was donated by Polly, by the way, I thought it was a really good thing to talk about, knowing that it's a bit sensitive to me, but maybe it's a good thing and I might be able to sort some things out here and realise that memory perhaps is beyond our physical body. So, yeah, anyone want to jump in?
The first thing that comes up when the general question was memory, data is the obvious answer for me. But that's why I was like slow to start. It's because the questions you are asking, it's like, wow, I haven't thought about that. Or that's interesting. So yeah, I don't know where else to start, but I feel like it's only going to get better.
Do you think, we'll start with this, what do you think memory is an exact science? It can be measured by a machine and we can predict it. We know they can program us, but do you think memory can be an exact science, or it's governed by free will or something other, so like our spirit and creator? We'll start there, because we know in the world they've done so many mind control experiments with memories, and they wipe your memory, and these drugs that wipe your memory. But one thing I've realised, people after a few years, no matter what they do to them, their memory starts to come back, and it might be splintered, but it starts to come back. So it sounds like a solid wall somewhere that's fed by something else, and no matter what you do to it, it can be impaired, but it'll grow back healthy like our bodies again. And perhaps once your mind's broken, is it permanently broken? Can your spirit fix it? And this is what I want. I believe that you've got your mind memory in your body, but your spirit also has a record of it. And if anything happens to your mind memory, your spirit's got the whole record anyway.
Yeah.
And I believe that's how it comes back, and can be healed if our life is long enough. Depends what happens to you. But I know science is
master copy.
interested in our mind, our memory. You just got to look up any, what do they call it, conspiracy thing, like mind control. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I reckon. What about you? You reckon the same? Reckon different? Some people might say that your memory is just why you're living, and it's like a computer, and it runs on electricity, and when your body's gone, that's it, your memory's out.
Yeah.
But I find it hard to believe. There's rumours of machines they have where they can download you into a machine and put you in a new body. And if that's so, that means your memory is like for everlasting.
True. Dang, I lost my train of thought.
Everyone's got amnesia. We're talking about memory. Sounds a bit like my people.
Spiritually, it would be amnesia that would erase memory. Looking back as memory, as data, we used to capture data in different ways. VHS tape, CD, vinyl LP.
You like trying to replicate our memory in a physical way. Okay. So our spirit, like I said, I still think our spirit's in control. That's why we have past life memories in our ordinary memories. They seep through. I think our spirit wants to tell us the whole story, but I don't think we're actually capable of experiencing it all in one go. I don't think our little bodies accounted for that when they made it. Like, do we make the brain bigger or smaller? How much capacity of brain do we need to hold all this memory program? And people say, oh, the bigger the brain, the more you think. But if you look at our computers and that, they're actually getting smaller, and we're fitting more memory on a smaller thing. So if we look at that way, what, do birds have better memories than us? They've got a smaller mind. Like, it makes you wonder.
True. I can see that.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I think do, Luna. I think they really do have a better memory. They're born, they're hatched, and they know how to build the same nest that their parents built, that their grandparents built, that until the last adaptation they built. So, in a way, maybe it is a better way that you don't have all the clutter of memory in your mind.
Yeah, you got a point there, Bernays. You'd have a clearer mind. I find with my mind, it throws certain information out because it's not important. Using computers and that and trying to remember how to use it, it just chucks it back out and goes, no, this isn't relevant to your mind, throws it out. I go back to use it again. How did I do? I actually have a memory lapse, and I realise that I'm running out of room, I think. If that's possible. But they're the capacity. How much capacity do we have? You'd think the size of our minds would have unlimited capacity, but we don't. Our minds end up failing at some point, sometime. Old age, you start forgetting things. So yeah, Bernays, you could be right. The animal kingdom might have a better deal than we have and things, and it's efficient in that way.
But is it because I believe that we have our genetic DNA memories, that humans have the same thing. There's no junk DNA.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Bernays.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not trying to change anything in the conversation here. I'm just saying that when you brought up the bird, I think of that because I see the birds in different places and they build certain nests. There ain't no training session. There's no college. There's no school. But that bird knows exactly what to do. The lion cub, he gets a little training. The bear gets some training. As you move up the predatory way, as you change the eyes on two sides to the eyes in the front, it seems like those need more training. And they seem to be the predators, and that includes humans.
Well, I was thinking about that yesterday. I was looking at my lizard because they got eyes on the side, and he communicates like a cat with his eyes, like he winks at you and moves his eyes around. And I was thinking that your eyes are on the side. What difference does that make? That's a predatory thing. Is that what you're saying, Bernays?
That's how I see it. That type of vision is also probably predatory. I've never looked from a bird's point of view, but from 2 eyes forward, and I don't want Nese come in and jump all over me for fun, but 2 eyes forward, you're picking up a different sight than you are from 2 sides.
True. I need to look into that more, the way they see. I wondered if that would affect memory. Well, that's a whole thing to look into. I'm going to look into that during the week, into do the eye situation affect how to look at the animals, because different animals have their eyes in different places, right?
Yeah.
Talking about animals and memory, you know the lyrebird that we have here in Australia? The lyrebird, I witnessed a lyrebird. It had like 1,000 years of sound memory, and it played them all one after the other. And it started playing. First, it played didgeridoo, clapsticks, and men singing at a corroboree, and then it said a bit of language. And then, as it progressed, it started. Then you heard a dog bark, and then you heard it did a chainsaw sound as we got and progressed into where we are now. And this bird remembered all them sounds for hundreds of years. It was amazing.
Well, I'll bring it back into the memory. When you have a strong memory, it's because of something you see, something you smell, something you hear. All your senses combine to your memories, other than the programming that they surely shove down us every day.
Yep.
Yeah, true.
I mean, and odd, and it's not odd, it's coincidence that I'm just now getting smell back. I can smell certain things very faintly, but I did exercises the entire time that I couldn't taste anything or smell. And every memory that I had when I could smell something, that memory didn't come back as vivid and as clear. It was kind of muted.
Yeah, I found a perfume that I used to use when I was a teenager, and every time I smell it, it brings back everything from there, the way I felt, how fit I felt, everything. I keep smelling it, thinking if I keep smelling it, I'll be permanently that way again.
I still can't smell pine, but that's another story for another time.
I don't think anyone can smell time.
I mean, pine, P-I-N-E.
I know what you're saying.
Oh,
I'm
I
just
fell
having
for
a
it too.
I got
Yes, you did. Well played.
So what about you, Sharon? You're putting up some good information here in the chat room. And so what do you got to tell us?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that song because I like that, because I think a lot of memory is like misty watercolored memories of the smiles we left behind, smiles we gave to one another, and can it be that it was also simple then, or has time rewritten every line? And I'm thinking about memories and how it's so easy to be in our shoes at the moment, and what triggers things, and what memories we enjoy thinking about and what memories we don't. And no, that's okay, Bernays, don't worry. But I was also thinking that touch, smell, events, music, words, and food trigger memories as well. Right? All of those things trigger our memories. The other thing I wanted to throw out there, you guys brought up a very good point, us versus the animals. I think right now we have so many things vying for our attention that I think it interrupts our memories as well. Like all of this crap that we hear, all the news, or the YouTubes or whatever we're listening to, it seems like it divides our brain And so I don't always have access to short-term memory, the things that happened recently, but I can remember the past, which is interesting.
Right.
So, and some
Um,
things were locked out, right? Some things you don't have access to. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that was one of the things I was going to bring up is when memories come flooding back.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how you said the long-term memories come flooding back. Does it have to go in and be stored in a waiting room before it gets processed to the long-term memory so I can come back to it?
Well, I mean, with the whole sensory thing, if it's separated, then you're gonna taste it, perhaps, or you're gonna smell it, and then it'll like ping.
I know that if I have a dream or something and I forget the dream, what I see, hear, smell or taste, if it was relevant to the dream, will trigger it back off again and then I'll remember the dream. So our body really has a lot to play with memory now that listening to what we're saying here.
And the other thing I want to throw in there, Luna, is that I have noticed if my memory gets really bad, if I do puzzles, if I focus on puzzles and I focus on mind games, nice mind, not on the computer, but with paper and pen, and I do puzzles like crossword puzzles, and I bring in another, because at one point I thought I was losing my mind, so I started doing puzzles and word games so that I was forced to think of words and forced to spell them. It helped. It helped bring back my memory.
Wow. Yeah, I know what you're saying because I recently picked up a word find and about 10 minutes into it, I felt something in my mind kick in and then I was really super fast at it. It was like, it's like we trained our brain and when we do that, it triggers it off and goes, yeah, I know what I'm doing now. It's
like a quiet thing. It's almost like a loving, quiet thing you give your brain to do.
It is, isn't it?
To healing. And it helps you access your mind, your memories again.
Actually, I'm getting pictures of, the work dogs, the cattle dogs that run around rounding up the cattle, how smart they are and you've got to give them a job. Our minds, Our brains are like that. You have to give them a job like that dog, keep it going, keep it learning, keep it moving. It's like a separate entity in a way.
I think you're, and I think it has to be active listening and active doing. Like you said, you do have to give it puzzles. And just listening to a YouTube isn't good enough because it puts it to sleep and it fractures it, which is intentional. I think I have to. I just noticed something, Jules, this week. It's something that I already knew, but it was confirmed again. Was listening to the programming of lack this last week and the week before. And they all, even the people on some of the shows that I thought were more on our side, they're just parroting the crap. And they're all do you call them doorkeepers, right? You know what I mean? Gatekeepers. They're all gatekeepers.
Yep.
Because there's no such thing as lack. Like one thing I do believe about this universe, there is no such thing as lack. And we are at the effect of them playing the game. And I think with our brains, if we can, okay, I'm going to do the I word here. So one of the things I'm thinking is when they roll out their program, I need to give my brain, like the dog, a job to do. It's like, okay, brain, look what the game is. If the game is rigged, you change the game, right? Like, okay, brain, here's the game. It's called lack. And look at how they're laying it out. What can we do? And that's going to be, and that's the game. Yeah, exactly, Bet. Absolutely no lack. Amen.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Using our memory to serve ourselves. So we watch our memories. If we're thinking in lack, in our lives, things will start to wane away, and then we catch ourselves and go, oh, hang on a minute, I'll think in abundance, and then we're okay. I see exactly what you're saying. This was what I was saying about the mind, how they can manipulate us. Like, they don't have to kidnap us, put us in a room, give us drugs, and program our brain. They're putting these things out for us to hear, see, taste, and smell that are programmed, like lack or poverty.
Fear. It's because it creates fear, right? Because we think we're dependent on them. We are not.
No, we're not.
We can go get that what is it? The Mangala washing machine. And we could get some rope and some stupid clothespins, and I'll hang up my wash outside. I am not helpless. If they don't want to put out the quarters, I'll wash my own laundry, dang it.
See, you know, we're talking about the birds and they learn from their parents how to survive. We have too, I'm sure, in our DNA, we'll go to DNA memory, we remember all our ancestors washing clothes by hand. My ancestors actually didn't wash their clothes, but never mind, you know what I'm saying? The old ancestors, you know what I'm saying? The convict ancestors would have. Washed our clothes, we would have had that in it. I really believe if you let us loose and we sit there long enough, we'll go, hang on, I remember how to do this, I remember how to do that, and we'll all figure it out. We're not that silly. Our memory.
Luna, I already did this when I was young. I know how to do this. It's not hard. It's a lot of work, but it's not hard. It's not impossible. It's not brain surgery.
True.
It's cheaper. I mean, I would start saving money.
Donny just said we only had our birthday suit. That was easy to wash.
Amen to that, Donny.
I'm looking at that like everyone's got a phone, right? So you can't go anywhere without your phone. How would you survive? You know, you can't have lack of communication. Like, you know, there's panic already there, and I'm starting to realise how they have manipulated our memories because they can't remember a time without phones, or a time without a washing machine. And I got a new washing machine a few months back, and it is full of so many gadgets. It makes me think I can't live without it, because how am I going to wash them clothes exactly the way they need with the delicate cycle and the cycle for the blankets and the cycle for this? And it's like, oh, I can't live without a washing machine. Well, that's not really true.
Right.
Go and get a mangler. And for those that don't know what a mangler is, if in the old days when they used to do hand washing and they had those 2 white rolls that you feed the clothes through and you turn the handle and it squeezed the water out, that was called a mangler. Okay. So yes, our memory is being manipulated at the moment into lack of this and lack of that. What else? They're also training us by going inside. You're allowed outside now. Go back inside. So they're giving us a memory training there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So there's more coming, people. So be aware. Right now here they're giving us a rest, and they lifted you don't have to cover your face up anymore, which is going to be a shock because you can actually see people.
What's that saying? The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away.
Oh yes. Yep.
That's the game they're playing. It's like we're the Lord, and it's like not on any day. Puppets.
Yeah.
What's going to happen in my mind is they're going to play this game one too many times, which they're already doing, and we are already going off the grid. The more that they destroy jobs, take away food, blah, 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 the more that we come up with excellent solutions, we don't need them, we won't go back. That's this is the risk you play when you play this game, is that you won't go back. You know, it's like if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend plays this game. We've all done the dating game where you be an asshole for a couple of times. Well, eventually the person dating you goes, "You're a jerk. I'm out of here.
I'm not going back." Yeah,
Exactly. I don't need this. Yeah.
True that. And as for memory, I think people are starting to remember. They've had time to think.
Yeah.
Their memories have come back. They've thought about their forefathers. They've thought about history. They've thought about many things in their memory and things they didn't have to think of or remember before they have to now. And yeah, I think that's making a big difference as their memories all wake up and go, hang on a minute, it's making its own wave. And that goes into DNA body memory, because we got soul memory, and then that's a whole past life memory. So anyone that had a past life in the Depression, you'll be right.
Yeah. Right.
That was the first thing that came to my mind when all this started. Hang on a minute. People in the Depression here in Australia, they just moved out of the country and ate kangaroos and rabbits. They were fine. But the people in the city suffered. Sometimes I feel my people here in Australia, Aboriginal people, half of them have lost their memory. They got amnesia because they forgot what happened in the last 200 years. And they're going for the lack thing, what you said, you can't do this. And yeah, they're going for it. And I'm scratching my head going, no, hey, a couple of years ago, we were talking about everything that happened to us. I remember having a big meeting and all us women were going off our heads. Yeah, they did this, they did that. And they all remembered then, but now they forgot.
It's interesting, Luna, because out of all of the games that they're playing with us, the lack one is the one that I feel is burned into my soul that's not real. It took me a very long time to be convinced that the universe was full and there was no lack. But I got there. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know how some messages are burned into your soul, or however you want to say that? And this one isn't resonating at all. This lack crap. It's just lack crap. And those of us who've done any kind of metaphysical work or anything like that, it's almost one of the first lessons we learned. So it's bogus. Anyway, I just wanted to say, I'm talking to the choir here, and I apologize, guys, but
you're so right. It is a bogus thing, because all you have to do is look back in the past where they reckon they had lack off and they were still alive and surviving.
Yeah.
So I can see the trick there really quick.
Well, the planet is magical. I mean, to me, one of the most provable magical things about planet Earth, there's no lack. Anyway, that's how I see Earth.
There's abundance. Yeah, there is abundance, and
yes,
you got to know how to draw it to yourself. Well, thinking in lack will draw the abundance away. It'll push it away.
Right.
Thinking in lack. So that's what they're doing now. They're slowly scaring us, because notice they started the lack of food last year, but it actually hasn't happened. But we're only just starting to see the shelves be empty. So they've programmed us for 12 months, slowly putting that lack in there. And then they hit you with the job. Oh, Dom, you can't have anything. Lack again. Everything's lack. Now, yeah. Actually, when you just got to put your mind to it and have a look. And, I was wondering the other day, when you see movies about or pictures or little film clips about the 1900s, late 1800s, they'll tell you back then everything was a lack of, People were poor. There was a lack of food, lack of clothes, lack of this, lack of that, lack. And I was looking at it, I'm thinking, if there was so much of a lack, how did we get to where we are then?
Right.
Because it was built upon, like it grew. It was growing the whole time. Yeah. And I think how can I put this? A lot of the films we see from back then, and a lot of what they tell us is fabricated. Yes. To look that way. And I think what's happening here now in the world, they're going to do the same thing. They've taken a heap of films, a heap of broadcasts, and 50 years in the future, they're going to play it back to the populace, saying this is the memory of that time. And if any of us alive, we were going, it wasn't quite like that. We don't remember that. That was there, but it wasn't quite like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
playing a
And
memory.
I mean, back in our grandparents' day, they had victory gardens. They had gardens. And one of the ladies that her grandson did all of these YouTubes, and she actually did a depression cookbook. And she talked about they didn't have a freezer. So she lived in a place where it snowed. So they put all of their food, like we would put it in a freezer in our refrigerator, they put it outside in the snow. And that was their freezer. They had fresh peppers. They made bread. She made bread out of salt and flour and water. Delicious
Wow.
bread. I mean,
Wow.
it's all doable. And she said we were fine. She said we made bread every day. We had delicious fresh pepper, fresh peppers. You just put them in butter and cook them, and they're delicious. We had one egg, and we all shared it. She goes, we did not starve.
Wow.
So,
It shows you how much.
it's amazing. So her, her films, her story, she filmed it when she was in her 90s, and her grandson did all these YouTubes. So you are so correct that, again, there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. And just as you're talking there, I'm listening to what you're saying. And they're flashing at me going, on one hand, they're telling us to buy all this stuff and waste it. And on the other hand, they're telling us there's a lack of. Because they want you to consume still. But they're pumping your brain with lack, but they're going consume. And it's like, yeah, I just saw it then. Gee, they're tricky, aren't they? Manipulating our memory.
How close to the end of this little game do we have to be that they are that close on their message of opposites? By, oh, we don't got it. By, we don't got it. It's got to be pretty close to the end.
Yeah.
Took my local store 2.5 months to get in Gatorade Zero. Knowing that they just don't have it on their shelves. Other stores have it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, I just
right,
been
Jules.
shopping around a bit. I realise what I can't get one place, I can get another. It's like they're tapering their products, but they haven't gone. They're still there. Because a lot of people are ordering online and they're still getting their products. Yeah, there's a bit of a trick going on here. Bit of a trick.
I think so much of it is marketing. It's FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? It's a marketing strategy. IBM used it. It's an old one. It's not new. And when you're the big dog on the block, so the government, for the moment, is the big dog on the block, and they make everybody hop to. And that's what they're doing. And I think, again, we have another opportunity here to not do that. And going back to the subject of tonight, let's give the dog a job, our memory. Let's put it to work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to use that this week. Let's give the dog. I like dogs. Let's give the dog a job, and that's my memory.
Yeah, exactly.
A puzzle. Give it a puzzle.
So we know our mind has memory. What about our body memory? Now, that's a whole realm. Like, people get some body parts taken off, but their body still remembers that part, and it's as if it's still there.
Like phantom limbs?
Yeah, the body memory. When we go through trauma, our body stores its own memory. So in your head, you might have sorted out the trauma, but your body's still carrying the memory of it, and you've also got to clear the memory out of your body. And that can cause sickness if you don't, because your body's holding on to the memory. So for an example, I'll give you an example. I knew a lady, when she was a young mum, she was subject to abuse from a partner, and he would hold her down from where your bicep muscle is. He'd hold her there like that and push her down on the ground and hold her. Now, once that relationship was finished, and years later, when she got older, and she put on a little bit of weight, as we all do when we get old, well, some of us do, and where he used to hold her on the biceps of the arm, the way the fat started to grow around her arms. You could still see it was cut. How can I explain it? So the arm would go along and then it'd go up and make an indentation exactly where he used to hold her, on the bicep of the arms, and both arms. And that's how the underarm fatty flat that all the women get, it made the shape. Yeah, it had an indentation of his hands on her arms. And when I saw that, she's happy and moved on from that, but her body still remembers. She never took that memory out of her body. And so much so that it grew that way. The flappy bit of her arm grew with the indentation of his hand. When I saw that, I just thought, wow, that's body memory for you. And that's easy cleared. Like, there's different things you can do to clear your body memory, as simple as sitting down saying, I love you, body, I'm going to help release this, and you just tap and shake it out of your body and then replace it with love. It's that easy, but we're not taught that our body holds memory. We're only taught that our mind does.
That's very interesting. Sorry for being so quiet all this time. Hopefully my internet will stay going green so I don't fade out on you guys. But I wanted to add to that because what you were saying, Luna, and about memory, the loss of memory, what we commonly know as Alzheimer's, or the loss of memory when we get old. Science has more than mostly proven that it is aluminum coming into the brain that causes this Alzheimer's, or this memory loss, this beginning of dementia to happen. So, and a lot of people don't know that or realize that aluminum or heavy metals can get deposited into the brain. And things like what we mention often, fluoride calcifying the pineal gland, which is the part where our soul memory is contained, or where the life cycles or spirit, where spirit maintains, I believe, is housed. And much like the petals of a lotus flower, how I like to view it is that the pineal gland looks much like a pine cone, many people say, but in my mind, I understand it as like a lotus flower, and so does Oriental. And yes, Donny, the third eye. And how I see each life is like a petal being added to that flower. And on that petal maintains the writing or the DNA memory of that life. And so to investigate certain past lives, we would look at, or I would look at, and find the specific petal that matches the timeline that I'm trying to look at. And then we have the aspect too of what I might call wasted lives, or lives in which karma was where we just did a lot of bad and it needs to fade away. Those kind of lives, I see it's like the dead life or the dead petal, and it just falls off because it doesn't add any value to the wholeness of the spirit life of the full flower, right? Because it's marred. But when we look at things like heavy metals, how do we remove out of the brain? Thanks to Power Hour with Joyce Riley, who really came out with this information so that people could herbally extract and take away heavy metals from their brain, aluminum poisoning. You can do mercury poisoning, even anything that's a heavy metal that has been, and will, all of the heavy metals, if you ingest them, they will get deposited into your brain, into the fatty tissues of your brain. So what Joyce Riley suggested was a routine of bentonite clay, which is like 2 tablespoons in a liter of water, and you drink that all day long every 20 minutes. Or you just take a sip every 20 minutes. And taking what's called plantain tincture. Now, plantain is a common herb found in most people's front yards. it's very, very easy to spot once you know it. Nothing else really looks like it. It's plantain, right? And you can make a tincture out of that. And you can buy it at the health food store where they sell tinctures. And taking a dropper full of plantain once a day for about 2 weeks will extract those heavy metals along with a bentonite clay out of your brain and cure Alzheimer's, essentially. So, of course, the Western pharmaceutical industry does not want this kind of information put out or known on a wide basis. We still find it, many people don't know about this. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to add to the conversation about memory. Any comments or questions?
Yeah. Could you tell us a bit more about soul memory?
Spirit memory. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's see. One of the most recent spirit memories that I visited was in the 1800s that correlated to my own life, but also trying to figure out how or where in the past all of us in this group have come together before. Because what we're finding in this time, and the Maya said it too, that beginning in 2012, the soul tribes or spirit tribes, people that have continuously found each other in the past to impact history, will essentially find each other, though they are seas apart. It will be this massive miracle, is how they described it. Basically, in so many words, right? Big, huge, long book and codexes about this time period from 2012 till now, essentially the end of 2021. So by the time we get to December 22nd of this year, supposedly our soul tribes are all supposed to be found gathered together. So I was investigating into what happened possibly from 1750 to 1820 that it seemed to impact and break apart. There seemed to be a traumatic scar tear memory in that time period against our group specifically, where we were all torn apart and spread. So essentially that's what I saw or visited, went back in the timeline, and it's like it plays out in a movie, kind of like the Akashic Records do. And it played out that we were all together fighting against the French. And we were more like an assassin group, kind of essence. Not really an assassin group, but we're a small group, a skirmishers group, basically, but of trained warriors that were, how do I put this? That were from different places, different countries and stuff. There was some Oriental in there and different things.
I remember that. That rings a bell for me, Maliah.
Yeah.
It's going bam, bam, bam. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you said about the timeline.
Me too.
Yeah, because in my spirit memory, the dates that you suggested is where I flagged something happened. And I was looking into what, I still don't know exactly what happened, but I know something happened there. And my memory, my spirit memory, soul memory, whatever you want to call it, it taps me on the head and keeps pointing me to that time.
Right. Me
So
too.
there's something there.
Really, really strongly. And so because of that, I've investigated many years and looked at closer and closer as I can to try and figure out, because it's a large puzzle piece that began, like I said, somewhere around 1748
Yep.
is about right when I'm pinpointing it, and then goes on till the last one that I saw was in 1818. But I believe there's one in 1834 as well that I saw last year, right around this time period. So that's another thing too that I've noticed, is that if you want to look back into past lives or look closer into your lotus petal flower of which one specifically that you're looking at, it definitely correlates to the day that you're looking at this thing. So if that traumatic event happened, your DNA memory will begin to tell you, and it will begin to come up as a cycle. Here around this time is when this thing happened. Your DNA memory will bring forth emotions, essentially. And if you investigate those emotions and follow into that path, which is a lot of self-introspection, which people in our day and age seem to have a very, very hard time with. To be alone is something that is almost fearful, if not completely fearful for many people. To spend time in the wilderness for 40 days or more, where you really get to know yourself, make yourself laugh, you just sit there and talk and talk and talk and understand who you are. In that self-introspection is when we begin, I believe, to be able to, like the Dalai Lamas or the other types of highly meditative religions that are out there that also look into this, say that the self-introspection, you go within yourself to look into what happened in the past. Sometimes when you do this, and if it happens to correlate with the exact same day that this cycle happened or was marked, your spirit can be transported into the actual event itself. I believe. I know some people do not believe that at all, but that's been my experience. So,
no, that's how I see it. When I look at someone and I see their past life, I can actually walk in it with them,
yeah,
and help them to go there themselves. And I can see it's like yeah, so it's real. It's all of a sudden everything changes and you're there, and
yeah.
you can hear, smell. I've heard horses, the smell of horses, and the sound that the horse and cart makes.
Yeah.
I've heard barrels and smelt the beer and that in the barrels or whatever they were drinking. Yeah, so it is true. For those of that work in that field, they understand that. For those that don't, it is possible to do that.
Right.
Before I move on, I think Jules wants to talk, and I think Donny might have
Yeah.
to say.
So I'm not sure where this is going to be going, but I was hearing the story of the lotus flower as I was thinking of tracing paper, and I don't actually think tracing paper is it's not relevant to this part, but I was actually the way that my brain was thinking, and this is how I feel like my soul could be recording data for the next reincarnation. It's kind of like, for me, animation, because you're drawing, like, think of the earliest concept of animation when you had the little book and you would draw like a picture. The next page would be the same picture, but something would be a little different. The third page would be a copy of the first two pages and add something to it. When you're done with it and you flip it, that's your story animated. But the tracing paper was kind of the way that I was originally thinking, is you have your main thing and it's the tracing paper would be stacked out, and one page would add another word to it, and one page. So when that was done, it was just added to that master copy for the next go round. If I made any sense.
Yeah, it
By
does.
the way, can I throw something real quick, Luna? Jules,
Yeah.
that made total sense. According to Cliff High, our bodies do that like a million times a second or something. I mean, it's just really weird. It's like we actually disappear and come back, just like you're talking about on the tracing paper, or the way they did cartoons. And he said that. So he said that's what happens to us all the time, and I'm really off in it, but I just wanted to confirm
Oh,
that that's what Cliff says. Okay, sorry, Luna. I just wanted to throw that in.
No,
real
no,
quick.
you're right. You're right, Sharon. That's what this roundtable's about. Everyone putting in their bits. What was I going to say? Maliah will understand this. Spiritually, we know that happens, and that's how you reprogram yourself. You catch everything that is coming your way. If you listen closely enough, you'll see it. And as it redoes itself, you can actually influence it, because you know how with a copy, after a while it starts to fade, and I think that's what they call age. If you can keep that copy print refreshed, you can slow down your aging process. I want to put a kind of question to Maliah to do with what Jules said, and you, Sharon. So in that process of what Jules just explained, do you believe, Maliah, that in our soul memory, so we'll go to the soul memory where trauma happened, and while that's happening, what Jules said about the tracing paper is happening. Do you think sometimes that the trauma can be bad or it's not finalised, and it can make a impression on the tracing paper, and it might not come out properly? So when we're in this life, we might have a flaw somewhere, like, you could be born with an impairment, or you could be born with emotional or mind problems from the trauma.
Well,
Do you think that has to do with the process?
Yes and no. Many times what I've seen when it comes to another life coming in who has some type of deformity, or they're born with cerebral palsy, or et cetera, these different things going on. They say that is genetic memory or something coming up causing the deformation. What I've seen in the spirit happening is that the life prior that person lived, they karma has, I use karma as a super general term to just basically describe the difference between positive and negative and neutral, and the balancing of those yin and yang. And in this, we find, okay, that in their past life, if they were specifically, each of these universal laws, if you were very, very greedy, and because of that, many people were hurt, then the effect on your body, greed affects lust is the heart, greed is the stomach or liver, one of the organs. I can't recall right off the top of my head, but each of the 7 sins affect one of the 7 organs, or the 7 egos that man battles. The person comes back in their next life with a battle specifically on that organ, because of the past life not correcting things while they were alive. And so they're required to live their life with a heart condition, because they, in the past life before that, caused great pain in other people's lives because they were not able to conquer the lust serpent, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this is what the Maya believed, and it's what I've seen in the spirit happening. Take it with a grain of salt. Of course, it's just my opinion. But yeah. Right. When it comes to the traumatic cycle events, I see that separately, because it was something that impacted history. And because of that, many amounts of negative entities came forth to work their magic plans, etc., against the group that was positively impacting the history to a point where it was changing the timeline for good, where good was winning. And these Malachian worshippers, all these terrible things that these things do, are the malevolent ones, the powers that should not be, were worked together to break apart this group. So we're talking Crowley was involved, the different magicians of that time, that like Da Vinci, going before that, and Columbus was involved in this. Chris Colombo was an extremely famous magician. Much of that is hidden, and you can't find information about what kind of works that he was involved in. But it was very similar to what Crowley and others were doing of that time, spiritualists, they called themselves. Or even the unseen ones. Now, these entities started to intermingle into that one group and brought the public demise of the leader, of the captain of the group, to total ruin, which broke apart by emotion, essentially, each one thinking the other had done them wrong. The entire group, which debilitated completely any changing of history from that point on, which basically means that it went the way they wanted it to go rather than the way it should have went. We don't know. It didn't go that way. So, but we're still here. So there's still reparation that can be made. It's not over yet. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
The plan hasn't worked.
Right.
So I'm just reading.
We're still finding each other. Yeah.
Donny made a comment about past life. He doesn't like heights and deep water and confined spaces, saying that his trauma's come over in that way. And what do we got here? And Sharon, the memory flip influence our memory. You want to talk about that?
One of the things every time Cliff talks about, and this connects to what Jules had said. So in between those microseconds that we disappear and get rebuilt, right? Or we reappear or we're rebuilt. I think it's almost like Star Trek, where you get into that thing where they send you, up Scotty, beam me up, the beam thing. And you kind of get disassembled and reassembled, but it happens so quickly. So what I was thinking is this why our thinking impacts things? Because of the power of our thinking in between the disassemble and reassemble, even as fast as it is, does that start to influence the changes, right? So we do have power. This is where our power comes from. And they don't tell us that this happens to us. So I thought before Cliff started saying this, that I was just here. In other words, I get up in the morning and nothing, it's just me, right? I get up and my body's me and I'm not, blipping in and out because I don't notice it, right? But every time Cliff talks about that, I just think then my thought process or the Mandela effects or whatever we think reality or time or any of that can scoot itself into this thing, right? In between these.
Please apologize. I'm so sorry. The internet is crashing. And so we're still recording, waiting for it to come back. But are you guys still there?
Right. And so I'm just saying that's the work we'll be doing, is working on that. We are the hosts of the parasites. And the parasites have been working very hard but they're over. maybe we did do this before. Maybe we were on Atlantis and we did this before. You know, people that I listen to that are very spiritual are talking about, hey, maybe you were on Atlantis. You know, that quantum business guy, very spiritual man, has been talking a lot about the Akashic records, and he said maybe you were on Atlantis with me. Maybe this. He said
trees, stones, and crystals hold memory too. And in the conversation we just had, that's spanning the timeline, we've had these things periodically in our journey to help us because we know they hold memory, and they've served us like that, and they give us the memory back. And what I want to put to Donny, in our culture, we have a lot of that. We know those things, and we still work with those things. And I've got two questions for you, Donny. You can answer whichever one. The first one's a bit about past life and your refined spaces and that, and how that feels. And the other one's about some of our objects that we use that hold memory, like some of the stones people have heard that hold memory, and all beings, which is holding a memory, a whole life being's memory. Do you want to talk to us about a little bit about that? Either one, you can talk about the past life first, or what we use, their stones and that holding memory, and places holding memory. Donny, please. You got to unmute, brother. Donny, he's gone walkabout on me. He's gone walkabout on me. Here he comes.
No, I didn't. No, I can't really give you too much details on past life memories, but I just know that through that past life memory, I am frightened of confined spaces, heights, and deep water. It's always been in my memory. And the smell of black powder. I can still remember that. That was the most closest life memory, past life memory I know of. Now, what was the other question you wanted me to answer?
About how we know that places, objects, stones, crystals, trees, and water in our culture, they all got memory, and how we can special stones that we have hold memory. And
well, everyone has that, like in an object. Let's explain. Say if you picked up your grandfather's watch and you've held it in your hand, your memory of your grandfather comes back to you, doesn't it? It's like your grandmother's brooch or your mother's teapot. It all comes back to you when you grab their memories. But now you got me in a corner here, Big Luna.
no, you're right, Ray. And what about, because traditionally our people, we have certain rocks and places, and they're special because they hold.
Well, the way I can put it in like modern terms, like you went and held it, touched the tree, and you got a memory from it. To me, or you have a rock, and you know there's special rocks that Stephen Heavenstrong got. To me, the modern version of that is a USB. Do you understand? Yeah, well, that's basically what it is. It's like a memory download or memory recall. But I've heard, like, I believe Maliah's been down to the pyramids in Mexico, and she said she had a would I believe, a download. That could be a
Yep.
memory. You know, understand what I'm talking about now?
Yep.
Yeah.
So when you're walking in the bush and you come across some special places, can you feel the energy of the memories there?
Well, like, it's really hard to explain. But when I go on a walk to find these old people's places, like their campsite, their corroboree ground, where they cooked and all that, I don't know if it's a memory or if it's they are calling for me. I don't call for them; they call for me. You understand what I mean? It
Yep.
could be a past life memory. I could have been through there in that one given stage in my past memory, past life. But they seem to like they call for me. Well, and sometimes I pick up that artifact. I can actually feel the bloke who actually made it. I can actually sometimes see the bloke who actually made it. I come across a campsite. I can actually see people sitting around, cooking, talking spiritual, and they like, how would you put it? They know that I'm there, but they don't say anything. You understand what I mean?
Yep. They know you're there, but
Yeah,
they don't change. Yep. And
yeah,
you know how in our mob we all say you've got to go to this place and that place. There's certain places that we are recommended to go through for our spiritual growth. Like Uluru is one of them. That's a most well-known one.
yeah,
Uluru or Ayers Rock, as the society knows today.
yeah.
How you think that's very important? Like, would you send your kids out? I just want you to explain how important that is
Well, it's
to
really
us.
important to me because if I I know that I've got to go for a trip around Australia. I know for a fact. But implicating it, when to go, I don't know yet. But I know that I have to go. I don't know why, but I need to go. Yeah,
Have
yeah.
you already been to a place, an energy spot where when you go there it like triggers your DNA memory and stuff? You've already been to one of them
You mean
places,
there's something? Is that the word they use, like deja vu? Is that the word?
Kinda.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that's
know
happened
I
to
know
me.
what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to get you to answer
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like it's a
Yeah.
deja vu. Yeah, I've been here before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
You know
had
the
that quite a
places?
few
Yeah.
times. Yeah, special places.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, we got special
yes,
places here in Australia that you go there and that's what it does. It reboots
yeah,
old memories. Um,
yeah,
yeah. So,
yeah,
and just before we finish that subject, and I'll let others because they've probably got something to say about objects and that hold memory. The rules about traditional rules that we used to have about not touching people's stuff because of what's in it.
yeah. That's right. That's basically sacrilegious, for wanting a better word. Yeah, I'll explain it to me uncle. What my uncle used to say. He used to say to me, "One man, one dog. One man, one horse." In other words, it was his personal stuff. You don't touch it.
And do you think it's possible that, say, one of those people is a magic person and you touch their stuff, that it could be
Now
detrimental to
that's sacrilege.
the
Yes.
memory in
Yeah,
it?
you got that right. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Do
memory
not
in the
touch.
object could have harmful effects on you. Yeah,
Yes,
so you
it does.
agree. Yeah.
Yes.
So there you go. That's why we're so have such harsh laws, because we know that memory can be instilled in an object, and you wouldn't want to touch someone that wasn't a very nice person, or you wouldn't want to
Yeah.
touch something of someone who had knowledge that you had no idea about, because it'll blow your mind away.
Yeah, it's like that Sharinga stone. Now, the memory in that Sharinga stone wasn't for me. That's why I walked out of the room when he uncovered it. Like, I could feel, the energy off that stone coming at me. And it was, I wasn't, for want of a better word, qualified to take that energy. So I walked out. Walked out
And
of the room, went outside.
do you think that was dark energy, or do you just think it was incompatible?
It's like the AC trying to fit it into a DC socket.
It was incompatible, yeah, right. So it wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily a bad thing, it was just not the right thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, not the right thing.
Yeah, because I've come across energies like that, and they said to me, just because the energy's strong doesn't mean it's negative energy. And the memory in it is just incompatible.
Yeah, it's not all bad energy. So-called bad energy is bad energy. It's just not compatible with you.
Right. Someone else's memories. Yeah.
Yeah, it's somebody else's memory. And that's got to be passed on to the qualified person who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's why we have ceremonies. That's why we just given knowledge to use this these like a Sharinga stone. It's hard to explain.
So would I be correct in saying, like, we'll bring it a bit together now? You have a soul that's walked through time. Each time they've done the same thing, had the same kind, say boomerang, same kind of boomerang each time. We come across this person's boomerang 50 years later laying on the ground. When we pick up that boomerang, we're going to feel everything that, or transfer, the memory will transfer to us of all the magic things they did, or the business they did. Would you agree that? And that's why it's so important not to pick up stuff sometimes.
Yes, that's right. That's why we have smoking ceremonies. When you go on country, you get smoked on and you get smoked off. Because the memory of that boomerang that belonged to somebody else is transferred over you. And that could be, like I said before, trying to put an AC socket into a DC socket. It might hurt you. Do you understand what I mean? And so that memory doesn't. What was that, Jules?
I was going to say, before we get more deeper into this, can I just add just something and take it for what it is? But you can definitely, objects, stones, things do have data, do have memory in them, and those powers that be that come out of a town in Hollywood, which is a magic wand. They, in almost every high franchise movie or any movie, when somebody picks up something and there's that flashback in their memory, it's there. They're putting that things do happen, but definitely, I mean, why emphasize that so much in all these movies if there's no truth to it?
There is truth to it.
Yeah, right. I wasn't that observant in the movies, but now you come to say it, Jules, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like me when I go up bush and I walk past a big old giant gum tree, and I think to myself, if only that tree could talk. Sometimes you do get a little bit of memory from them, sometimes you don't. It's probably in your frame of mind, for want of a better word.
They do talk, Donny.
I know they do. Yeah, just got to get on the right frequency, though.
Got to back me up here, come on.
They do talk, but sometimes you've got to be in that right frequency, right frame of mind.
Yep.
For want another better word for that is be in tune.
Be connected. Yep.
Be in tune or be connected.
Yep. Through that.
Mm.
Okay. Would anyone else want to comment on objects, places, stones, crystals, trees, and their memory?
The only thing I would talk about is jewelry, people's jewelry. I think we've had that discussion before of I think certain people's jewelry, you don't want to touch it. You know, it's just either it does, like you said, it's a different vibration or socket, like it's a different, you know, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
it's
I understand what
interesting
you're saying.
because there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of personal energy in jewelry. There's a lot of memory. In fact, I asked a jeweler one time, I said, can you sense people's feelings in the jewelry? And he's like, yes. Or personal energy, yeah. And he said, yes, I can.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's like being a real estate agent in homes. Well, there's another thing, homes. Right? Yes. You go into homes and there's ghosts in there. Sometimes there's bad vibrations. You think, oh, I'm not going to buy this house.
The house memory is not nice. Do you think that a memory in a house could be so loud that it actually comes through like an entity kind of thing?
Yes. Oh yes, I've had that experience of living in a place where the guy had died before I moved in, and he was looking for his wife. And every night at 10:30, he would walk through the hallway looking for her. You could hear him. You could feel him. He was there. He was harmless, but every night, me and the cat he'd be walking by at 10:30 every night in the hallway. And I actually asked the neighbor, I said, what the heck happened? Who is this guy?
Yeah. I know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know when I've been to places, I got to separate the house memory from an actual spirit. If there's an actual spirit there, or whether it's the house playing the memory back over and over again, or the spirit memory of that trauma. It's a tricky thing, whether it's a memory or actual being. It can be very tricky. What was I going to say? I lost my memory. So what happens when you lose your memory? There you go. Like I just had, bang, I hit a wall. Did I jump too fast from one thought to another? Was it pulled out of my mind? Or did I actually hit some sort of wall inside my mind? Like we're talking about memories here. What happens when those momentary memory losses? And also, what about when you know what you want to say? It's like I can see the memory, but I just can't pull it out of my mouth. What do you reckon's going on there?
It's called I derailed.
Yeah, Jules in a train. That conductor's out again. Took me up the wrong way.
For me, when that happens, it's sensory overload. I'm thinking a thought and I'm smelling something and it's reminding me of something, and then I go to speak and my mind's so busy, it's like, stop. It's like brain cramp. I derailed.
What do you think contributes to that?
Well, I do think that the crap that's being targeted, in other words, would we have as many of these things if we weren't trying to live a double life? I kind of wonder about the double life and what it's doing to us. What I mean by that is we have to live in two worlds. We live in the spiritual world and we live in the physical world. We have to live with the people who are sleeping. And so we have to have that behavior. Right now, it's a dual reality, in my opinion, right? And so we have to have a personality for reality number one, and then we have a personality that we can show up for this conversation. And I wonder what that does to our memory. So I'm serious, and what that's doing to our brain. It's very frustrating. It's very tiring. There's a lot of times I just don't want to do it. I just like. When I'm around the normie people or woke people or whatever you want to call them, I just want to start saying stuff because I'm tired of playing. I'm actually very tired of playing the game. So tired of playing the game. And so the question I have, Luna, is I agree with you. What is that doing to our brain and our memory?
there's that truth thing there. You got a point.
Yeah, that moment of silence, that's really well strung together, Sharon, really well.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's the first one for this show, the truth silence. I love it when they pop up. So what I wanted to talk about too is our dreams. Like we dream and we have dreams, and then we go, I remember this dream, I remember that dream, I remember this. But that's just a dream. That's not our real life. And how does is it the same thing? Our memories from our real life and our dreams that like just one long day? Or do you think our brain has a compartment where it goes, no, that's dream and that's in the energy base level and this is reality? And obviously some people who lose the plot a little bit cross over and their dreams and reality can blend and they don't know where they are. Like, how do you reckon that part works with our dreams?
Isn't the dream... sometimes I think it is real. I think there's some kind of reality going on. There's something real going on about it. But I also wonder, originally I heard dreams were a way for your memory to make sense of the events and puts it in a different dynamic or wants to send us. I think that dreams often are subconscious trying to speak to us, because my subconscious has a way of, and so I don't know where that comes in. Does the subconscious have a memory? Does the subconscious remember everything? Which part of your brain is like the computer that downloads and takes films of everything?
Well, that's where I think the subconscious is connected to your spirit, and it holds every single memory, also that every emotion, every thought.
Right.
So yeah, here's one for you. I just thought of this. So some people can predict the future. There's no memories there because nothing's happened and no one can remember it because we haven't done it yet. So how do they know? Like, where does it come in their memory? You know what I'm getting at? Like I have visions of the future, right?
Right.
But I haven't walked that yet. So how do I remember? How do I remember those visions of the future if I haven't walked there yet? Here upstairs, there's a question.
But I think it's because you've accessed it. I think for that second in time, Luna, I think you access the future.
Punch a hole through the realm.
It's not a memory. You actually, yes, you punctured, you went through, you saw it, and then you're going to get to relive it. You grabbed it. It's almost like you grabbed something. It's like you grabbed something from the carnival, but you hadn't gotten to the carnival yet. But you grabbed it. You reached through and grabbed the cotton candy. Like, oh, look at this.
Yeah, that realm's funny when you're gifted in memories, because I can actually look at other people and see their memories.
Sharon triggered one right there. On the merry-go-round, you grabbed the brass ring. Right. And you just kept spinning around, and every time it depended if the horse was up or down or where. Yeah, that's...
Yep, I like that one. Thank you for that. I'll tick that off my list. So I'll go back to the subconscious memory, because that obviously has a lot to do with our dreams, right? We shut our eyes, our conscious memory goes to sleep, or we presume it goes to sleep, and our unconscious, subconscious memory starts to show us movies. Now, we all know we have different kinds of dreams, so we're accessing different kinds of memories. So we can have dreams about what happened in our day, and we're just replaying the memories of the day. We can have dreams of our past lives, so we're replaying memories of our past lives. We can have dreams where, now everyone's had these dreams. Most people I know have had this kind of dream where they go somewhere, they know the place and they know the people there, but when they come back and wake up in the daytime, they're not in their actual life. And a lot of people have that dream, and we remember those people and we remember those places. So to me, that says that our subconscious mind, our spirit, is living a different life, and we still remember it when we wake up.
Yeah.
Anyone want to say that?
Yes, I agree with you on all of those. Yes. And do you ever, like, when you wake up, say to yourself, that wasn't real, that wasn't real, that wasn't real? Or that's not this life. That's not, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's something going on and you don't want to do it or you don't want to be a part of it. You go, no, that's not real. That's not real. That's not real. Oh, it's not real here. I think it's real somewhere.
Because there's a barrier there of reality, right? There's something there. There's like a thread into our dreams, past our conscious mind, and it's like another life. And we have memories just the same and feelings. Because I've woke up crying from some of them I had, and I wake up crying. What am I crying for? Oh, that was in there, because we go in ourselves when we do it. Do you think we actually access? I don't think we do, but what do you think? We access the whole memory of that time? Or do you think we just chuck it in our brain and continue our day? Or somewhere in us is churning it over?
Can you explain a little bit more what you mean, what you just said?
So you've been asleep and you've had all this stuff happen in your sleep. Some people even say they've been away and they've worked all night, right? And then they wake up and they continue with their ordinary daily reality life. Do you think that their unconscious mind, their spirit, whatever remembers all that, is still digesting what happened in the dream while you're living your daily life?
Yes, I do. I think so. And I think even if I don't remember the dream, snippets of it will, or I don't remember necessarily details, but snippets will show up and I'll get a quick snippet. It's like, wait, that was in my dream. Wait a second, I dreamed that, But I can't grab it because it's... Did you ever see that show where the guy was living two lives, and when he went to sleep, he lived one life, and when he woke up, he lived another?
I remember my husband watching it.
But I can't remember the name of it, but he no matter what, whenever he went to sleep in that reality, went to the next reality, and all these, but he had the same characters in these realities, but different things were happening in the two realities. It was the crossover. It was really fascinating, and that's kind of what we're talking about right now. He never got a break. He never slept because he was always going to these two realities over and over and over, right? 12 hours in one and 12 hours in the, however long he was awake.
Yeah.
But you were tracking on the show, you were tracking the two realities with him.
How would that be for your memory? That's what I mean. How do you know one memory from the other? I ate Vegemite on toast this morning when I got up, but I also ate Vegemite on toast in the other world, and I don't want any more because my body's saying, when I look at it, going, I don't want none of that. I've had enough, and I think, but I've only had it once, and it says, no, you had it when you went to sleep as well. Wow, that's crazy.
Well, do we really know how this matrix works? I mean, that if I haven't learned anything in the last 2 years, I think I really truly do believe at this point that I don't understand necessarily what we're living in, but that it is truly a matrix of some sort, and that we're walking through something extremely significant, and what I do matters. At least to me, right? To me, that the choices I'm making right now seem to be very important. And I was talking to a military guy, and we were talking about the jib jab. And there's a saying in the military: "Is that the hill you want to die on?" Right? And he was talking about the jib jab because he's in the military, and the whole situation. And his wife said to him, "Is that the hill you want to die on?"
Yeah, right.
And I like the way that was put. Is that the hill you want to die on? So I think right now we're all looking at the hill we want to die on for whatever reason. And I have not had to do this in this lifetime until now. I mean, think of it in these terms.
Well, even through my past life memories and that, I've fought battles like Maliah was saying earlier, that group that were like a militia. I remember that. Because I even speak about it. If you've heard me speak before, and I'll say stuff about
Oh, yeah?
warrior-like stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. And it was one of those where I entered into my past life's body and could smell, could see the horses, everything. Yeah.
yeah, I remember that. Hang on, I'll just catch that dream. My train went. Jules, where's the ticket man?
Well, I was sitting here and I was squirreling because it. Never mind.
We got to have a talk to the conductors. You said that was the conductor voice. I wonder if it's like there's a conductor and then there's all these train tracks for each person has their own travelling route, obviously. And we go left, we go right, do we stop? What happens if it loses train? Is that what's really happening? Actually, we'll go back to the dreams and sometimes I wake up in the morning and I go, there's more than one of me. One lives here, one lives there, and one lives on another plane. And sometimes it feels like I've gone to bed and I've dreamt about all of them and different things happening one. And a dream's flashing back at me. I normally wouldn't say this, but because it sounds crazy, man, but the whole conversation with you is a bit crazy. I remember waking up one morning and I had two dreams in the one, and it felt like the two me's in another world. In one world, it was more progress than this, technology-wise, and it was like it was run by one army, one mob, and they'd captured me, and they had my arms behind my back, and they were tied, and I'd come in front of the boss. Now, that was a snippet of one dream, and then I had another, which was similar but different, whereas I was in this other world where the same kind of thing was, this one group was in control of everything, and there were heaps of us all lined up on this cement, and this guy in front, we're in front of this guy again, but it was different kind of looking and everything, and there were more people behind me. The first one I was on my own. They'd captured me on my own, but this one there were heaps of people, and the guy in front grabbed me, pushed me on the ground, put my arm behind my back and stood on my shoulder. So it was kind of the same thing. In the first one, they pulled my arms behind my back and hurt my shoulders, and I was coming in front of the main controller. And in the second one, I was with other people, but they pushed me on the ground and did it. And I woke up with just stunned, kind of. I actually felt, in those two lives I get captured. I wonder what's going to happen in this life. That's exactly how I felt.
Yeah, it's been, at least for my experiences of past lives, and speaking of my own flower, my own lotus flower, there are a lot of petals on it. And like a pine cone, it goes on and on, continuous for many years, many different lives. And the ones that I've viewed, most of them have a rather tragic, traumatic ending. So like when Donny says he has fears of heights, and these different things, like same here, like stand on the edge of a cliff. I know it's like my mind remembers what it feels like to fall off, and not only fall off, but that it was something that was like, okay, the rope's tied around your ankles and you're being pushed off because you're being killed or sacrificed or something at this point, And so, and there's hundreds of these. So at least in my experience for my life, and so it's really hard to discern and differentiate at times which of these memories are, do I need to put so much emotion into them? Do I need to remember them? Like the birthmarks, marking different things. They're all over me. Like I have one in my wrist, so I remember being crucified. I remember my head being cut off. I remember stakes going into my heart. All different kinds of things that I've had to overcome through my life and figure out why I was afraid of heights and why I was afraid of metal stakes and, things like this. So yeah, it can be when you go to investigate into it, it's a good thing to recognize your fears and look at the different petals that could correlate with that fear and figure out why or what happened. And I think it's a good thing. It's been beneficial in my life to figure out whether or not a person is there for good or evil, even.
We were talking about him.
I wanted to ask you a quick question. So I have the sense that I was some kind of military person.
Oh, yes.
Which is why I think my dad was in the military.
Yeah.
But I have this feeling I don't want to. I'm totally pro gun for everyone to get a gun if that's what they need, but I'm not pro gun for me. And I feel like the lesson I learned in another life, maybe the last one, is I don't want to kill anybody, and I don't even know where that comes from. I don't want to go down that road like I learned my lesson. So my question is, because I think everybody here is a peaceful warrior at this point.
Yeah.
Is that the lesson we all learned?
Well, it seems like that is the stakes in this one. That is,
Yes.
Can you make it through this life without killing anyone? Because us in particular, we've killed so many in those past
Yes.
lives, being in so many battles, being warriors so many times. There's like no big deal. And so to conquer that, at least within myself, there have been times where it's like, dang, if I was only 100 years ago right now,
Go ahead,
Yeah, no,
Totally different.
Yes, no, I agree with you. I think that there's a part, but here's the thing. Like I was thinking about our puppet in the White House. I can't even get up enough energy to hate the guy. He is so pathetic and such a pathetic character at this point. I mean, you can't even get mad at the guy. I could get mad at Mussolini, but not that guy.
Well, it almost seems like... Go ahead. Oh, well, it almost seems like... Sorry. You first, Luna. Go. Pardon.
I was just going to say I don't listen to them or watch them because I don't want them in my memory.
Right.
Yeah,
Agreed.
kind of along the same lines that I was going to say. I just don't want to put that in front of my sight. See, that's what seems to be the battle very much is the battle of the eyes, the battle of the sight. What will you choose to look at? What will you choose to put in your eyes? What will you choose to put in your ears? And there is such a myriad of garbage to put in there that it seems very rare to find people who do dedicate, okay, I want to read old books and sit in dusty libraries, So, yeah.
Well, is that the lesson I learned that other... Well, so let me step back real quick. I chose project management because I was not going to be a manager. I was going to have to learn to influence people in a way of integrity. In other words, you don't get people to do their job for you first if they don't trust you and if you're not their boss. You have to use your influence. You have to convince them that working for you is awesome. Even though they have these other things on their plate. And I chose that road because that was the hardest road I could choose. That I wasn't going to be controlling and domineering because I know that can be my personality. So I think this lifetime, I've consciously said to myself, you're going to learn a different way. And I think when we look at the planet right now, planet-wide, many of us are choosing that at this moment in time. We are choosing the peaceful warrior way, right? We could all pull out a gun or a knife or a sword or a broomstick and go run after these idiots, right? I mean, at this point, we would be in our rights. But it's not going to accomplish anything because the one thing we all know that these idiots know how to do is shoot people, right? So we've done that so many times, that's not going to work. And the other thing about all this is we already feel like we've won, we've got to feel like we've won, and we've got to figure out how to do this differently. And that's really, I think, the road we're on, is how do we do this differently this time?
Actually, that is a segue. I was going to say collective memory.
Yes.
I think what you said, we're all going, how do we do it different this time? We've had the same collective memory, and as a collective now, we're thinking exactly what you said, Sharon.
Right. We've all picked up a gun. We've all picked up the sword. We've all picked up the knife. It's over and over and over, right?
We've all been on the other end of the gun or the sword, and we've all been on both sides.
Yeah. What is that? Live by the sword, die by the sword? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think we've all done it in the history of...
What's an NCO? You remind me of an NCO, Sharon. What's an NCO? Do you know, Lena? Okay. Donny, what's an NCO?
Bernays put sergeant. Is that a sergeant? All these letters, you're confusing me.
Sharon.
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 Go ahead, Bernays.
No, it's Donny.
Oh, Donny. Go ahead, Donny.
Yeah. Non-commissioned officer. I couldn't spell sergeant.
I remind you of one of them?
Yes, you do.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Salute, Sharon.
Very much so. So, Sharon.
Like you said, like a sergeant?
Yes,
And
like a sergeant.
Do you remember wearing a uniform, Sharon?
I think the fact that my father was in the military this lifetime, and that I felt very close to the military and totally related to it, and that honor, duty, and country is in my veins. Yes, I think there is something there. It could be just from living in the military and having to, help my father not lose his commission. It's very serious in the military. If your dad's an officer, mine was, you have to behave yourself. You could derail their career by your behavior. So I don't know if it was that, or the fact that in some past life, I understood this at some soul level is maybe a good way to put this. I get it. And honor and duty country means something to me. It really does. I think that's not a bad way to live. And I'm not saying that you kill from that. I think that's where you stand your ground from there, right? You love your country, and you do your duty, and it's like you show up. Maybe that's a good way to put it. You show up. You just show up.
It's funny, you're talking about that. I'm getting memories of when the whitefellas first came, Captain Cook. We made a mistake, Sharon, but by not sending our warriors up, we actually sent our healers and the women to feed them because they were sick. They were sick and hungry. And as they came in, we realised that, so we sent food and medicine. And because of that, they thought we were weak. And our warriors were on the second line. We had no need to send our warriors because these people were sick. They had a long journey,
Right.
In New Zealand, they did the opposite. They sent all their warriors straight up, and they looked at them and went, oh, they're intelligent. So they looked at us as not intelligent because we didn't send our warriors up. That was one mistake, and I'm sure that in our memories, if we could go back, we would send our warriors first and then send our medicine, our healers and our food. It's funny because it's a funny thing you brought that up. So it's in our memory now not to be kind. That's why a lot of black fellas are like, they say to you, oh, don't go down there, they'll beat you up and steal your stuff. It's like we learned our lesson. We were nice to everyone. They treated us that way. And something in us now says bring the warrior first. But the way the world's ready to do it the other way. So I have conflict sometimes. It's like, oh, well, now we've got to do the peaceful thing. But that didn't work out for us last time.
But there's a way to have the warrior show up without taking any action. In other words, but you talk about the non-commissioned officer, the sergeant. The sergeant can show up. It doesn't mean the sergeant's going to take action, any negative action. You show the power first, and then you be generous. I think this is something we may have to show the our parasites. See, they think that we're weak. They think that our behavior is weak and that we're their cows and dogs and sheep. That's not true. Maybe we forgot to show how to show up without a sword and a gun and a knife, but we show up powerful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Because I feel that's exactly what's happening. All us warriors are just in amongst the people. Our weapons are. We are the weapon now. We don't actually have to carry one.
We are the weapon. Yes, we are. We are the power. That's exactly correct. And it's. I find that in my job, again, going back to my position, you can't be weak. But it doesn't mean that I can't be strong or open or listening. But I also cannot be weak either, because people will run over me. Again, I didn't have. That was the tough lesson, right? I didn't have any power to be their boss, but I had all the pressure to get the job done. If you're the good shepherd of the sheep, you have to make sure that nobody dies, nobody falls off the cliff, and no one gets lost. But you always have to get them in at a certain point in time. So you have to be powerful to take on some of the stubborn sheep who don't want to listen to you, and who will take the rest of the sheep and say, don't listen to the shepherd, let's go over here. And, you got to go talk to the sheep and go, hey, I'm in charge here. But, you can party on your way to the barn, that kind of thing.
Yeah, right, yeah. Actually, while you were talking, I could see all us individually, all our relatives from the past, our ancestors, everything they learned, it's like through the blood, their memory got passed to us. And we've all arrived here with the same result. All our family memories are telling us this is the result, this is the last fight, and we do it peacefully, we do it different. I got a question for you all. Who wants to participate? The question is, what is the one thing your spirit gets you to remember to keep you aware or on your path? Oh, is that a question or what?
It's a good question. What's the one thing that your spirit reminds you to stay on your path?
Yeah, what it'll remember, like
a
for
word
me,
or go ahead.
For me, it's I'll see a bit of conflict somewhere in the world, and that conflict will remind me where I stand, where I'm supposed to stand. You know what I mean? It like go see that. That'll remind you who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. That's what it does for me. What's the one thing for you fellas that life does that? Your spirit will point it out and go, see that? Remind you who you are and what you're doing here.
I think for me, sometimes it's an inspiring story. I think sometimes what it comes down to is somebody who took a stand, who was brave enough to speak up, or who just took an amazing stand. Somebody out of nowhere, and somebody you would not expect, that brings tears to your eyes. And I think to myself, if they could do that, you can do that. If they had that kind of courage, where's yours?
Anyone else? Bernays, Maliah, Jules? It's a bit of a tough question. I know you haven't really thought about it because I only just thought about it while we were talking. It was just something I put myself. It was like my spirit tapped me on the shoulder and said, see that? We'll use that so you remember who you are.
I'm not sure if my idea of an answer to your question is really an answer to your question, but I thought of when you asked, I guess what I try to do, or I try to remember in order so that I can stay on my path, is to look down first. But the reason for looking down is to remember to look for the tiny things. And to me, that means looking for the humble, for the little ones, the ones who are forgotten, or the ones thrown to the side, the smallest of those around. To me, that's kind of how my spirit wants to answer that question, Luna. Basically, just remembrance of that.
To remember the smaller things, and that'll remind you of who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get yours. Yeah. Anyone else want to answer the question? You don't have to. No takers? Okay. Okay, so moving on. All right, let's go to a rounding up of the table, because we've gone through heaps of stuff with memory. Everything from how our brains work, how people can manipulate memory, how the world is doing it right now to all of us. Past life memories, our body memories, soul memories, object memories. We had a great thanks for Donny for talking about those places. And memories of our dreams. And just shows you what a tapestry we make just by having memories. It makes its own tapestry, and all the little stitches in it from the time of our existence is all in that tapestry. Wouldn't that make a nice place to go to? You just visited the this is the building of the tapestries of life.
I love that you brought that up, and as a reminder of in my memory, I always try to remember to bring that up, or at least look for an opportunity to bring up the tapestry, because yes, it is there, and I've seen it in the spirit, and oh my goodness, talk about intensely marvelous. But each spirit path, each whole person has one thread that changes colors as it goes through, depending on life paths and stuff. So through these thousands of years, each of our threads interweaving and going through the dance of life in each of our unique ways does end up building, and has made, because it's already been done, and we're coming to the last of those threads. Now, some of our threads have turned golden, some have turned silver, some have turned into the different precious metals, rather than just, the colors of threads as they started out in life. So yeah, I love that. Was very exciting. I'm glad you brought that up. Great way to round it up.
Jules got a little cat paw up there. Jules? Hello?
You're muted, Jules.
There's nothing worse than you talking away, thinking you're saying something real good, and then you find you're muted and no one heard nothing.
And I was just sitting there yammering away. But it's probably best that I'm here at the end, because it kind of seems off topic. But I don't know if anybody else. I know of at least one in Discord, and she's not in the room, so she can't back me up right now. But is it possible? Because for years, I would go to bed every night, and I would just see hundreds of thousands of random faces. They were all like flashes of people. This went on for several years. And then the more I got into KBS, gradually over time, all of those things stopped. I don't get the flashes anymore. And I wonder if it's just memory of multiple past lives converging, kind of like, I guess if it was magnetic, it would be just, they would all be coming together.
Yeah, it sounds like they freshed your memory. And that's what I wanted to talk to you, because if Polly was here, we would have had the word game, and he would have brought up remember. And we were talking about it the other day, and he said we're talking about remembering. And I said, every time you say that word, I just think of a body that's had its parts cut off. But remembering's probably like that. It's all these pieces of memories, and you're trying to put them back together in the one body, which would be the one memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened to you? That sounds like what happened to you and Jules. They were floating them all around going, remember all this? This is all part of the one thing?
Well, and that's where, because, I was talking with Jo, and she was like the same way. She's the only person that I've ever come across that literally had that same thing of seeing flashes of people, hundreds of thousands of them, just closing your eyes and trying to get asleep. I mean, was that one of those time glitches where it was something related to the future?
I'd be yelling, everybody out, I'm trying to sleep.
And so, Jules, did you think at the time this was a flash of your future? Is that what you meant?
Because all these pictures, they were flashes of people, they were just faces. They were like profile faces. I never saw what era how they were dressed, what era of time they were from, because it was all faces.
Mm. Did you think it was your past life, or did you just saw faces and you're thinking, what the hell is this? But it goes on night after night. What was your thought process?
And there for a while I was thinking it was past life.
Okay.
But they've stopped.
Yeah, something similar to what you described happened to me when I was about 15, and it went on for several years, for 4 or 5 years. And I thought you're the only other person I've ever heard describe it before. But it was like every time I would go to sleep, all these faces would just start flashing in front of my face and swimming in the background, and yeah, that's interesting. And I never really, I kind of forgot that memory until you just brought that up. I wonder if it did have something to do with past lives or a group.
It's possible, because when I first saw a picture of you, my soul recognized you.
Oh yeah, mine too. Like right away of you. As soon as I remember it too. You just gotten a haircut, and it was so cute. You're like, look at this. I was like, oh my gosh, I know you. Sorry, but it was very exciting, and for my spirit, I remember just meeting all of you guys, even Luna, for the first time. I was like, Luna, I know you. You know, so. Sure.
And those episodes of Xena that Luna told me about after like first starting yarning with Luna and learning what she had and what I had done, years of self-study, everything started coming together. And it's memory. It's genetic memory. It's energy. Our energies are drawing to each other.
Well, it makes history a lot more fascinating, and wanting to find an accurate history, because the history, as Nese tells us so many times, history is written by the victor. So to find the buried documents of journals and these kinds of things of what actually happened, it makes it, to me, all the more fascinating to explore and experience it. And traveling does seem to make an effect also in the past life memories. Being in a specific location where something happened seems to make a big difference in remembering them. Yeah, that's the little one in the background. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just listening to you. I'm thinking, all right, we remember, like I was Jules saying, I remember seeing you, Maliah, I remember you and me and others we remember. Donny remembers. We all remember someone. And I'm thinking, why aren't we paying more attention to this? Because when we remember something in our daily lives, we go, oh, that's right, I remember that. And then we act on it straight away because we forgot it, right? And we've got to catch up in time because we forgot it. But we all have these memories on a spiritual way, but something's taught us not to pay attention to them. Something's taught us not to make it important. And I was thinking, they know. Do they know? Is this just a coincidence, or do they actually know, and they've shoved all this stuff in front of us to go, nah, that's not important, don't look that way. But here we are, especially in the last coming years. People are coming together, strangers are coming together, but we're not strangers. And it's happening in my real life as well as online. So. And no one can control that.
Do you think that during this last couple of years that more of us are coming together in a different way? In other words, it's a very significant time, and so you're willing to say and do a few more things you wouldn't have been doing a couple of years ago. Like a couple of years ago, I probably would not be having some of these conversations because we're exploring a lot of things that are changing, right? All these things are changing, and we're having to make different decisions as we go forward. Like things are going to in other words, the past is over. We're not going to, whatever happens in the next year or two, we're not going to go back to the way things were. That's gone. So we're only marching forward. And maybe because we don't always meet people that we have memories of that would understand if I said to them, I remember you, right? Or you seem familiar to me, but we're in a room here where everybody's going, yeah, how about that? Nobody's going to say bad things or make fun of you or say, what are you, weird? Nobody's going to do that. Yeah, Brave New World. Yeah, exactly, Donny. So when I think about coming here, we can say things that we're not going to be able to say in our dual world, right? The other side of our world. And I don't have to listen to that's scary. It is still baffling to me, you guys, when you say to somebody, I'm psychic or I remember things or I see things and people go, oh, that's so scary. How is that scary? Anyway.
Yes, I giggle and just laugh and go, hey, get used to it, you'll be right.
Exactly. So when I was thinking about your question, about memories, what I'm getting from our conversation tonight is our memories are getting a big workout, more than mine certainly has, more than it has for a very long time, in a different way. Right?
Yeah.
I'm calling on my mind and my memories in a very different, like washing the clothes myself. That's a memory I haven't thought about for a while, but it's easy to pull up. And I'll do it differently if I end up washing my clothes by hand.
Yeah. So we need to practice remembering.
Yes.
So remembering, yeah, we need to practice it. We tend not to. I think we're too busy shoving more information in there.
Shoving is right.
Yeah, we do this.
Memory loss. Sometimes it comes back.
I know when I was working in services and we went to, you'd have a week of training. The week of training virtually was you'd get a syringe put in the back of your head and they inject you with all this stuff and you've got to remember it. And you walk away with this head full of stuff that's been shoved in there and you've got to, takes you a whole week to unpack it all and throw away all the BS and keep all the good stuff. It's kind of vicious way of filling up your head with information.
They have a term for it in sales when they do too much sales training in the like when you start a new job and they dump too much on you, they call it front loading.
Oh.
Is that a great term or what? Front loading. And that makes total sense.
Because in services, they do that. You're on forever going to training. They're ever front loading you. The burnout rate is 2 years. No wonder they're doing that to you.
You can't remember it in the beginning. If everybody dumps everything on you in the first month of your new job, you don't have anything to connect it to.
I'm going to write that down because it's a big issue in services.
Front loaded.
They front loaded everything of me when I was in the pharmacy.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no way to connect it. Like, and every time they do that, you have to go back to the training and start over.
Which I never got.
Or write it down and then go back to it as you learn it, as you have something to connect it to. Maybe that's another thing about memories is if we don't have a lot to connect it to, like thought, smell, music, words, food, it disappears because we need to anchor the memory.
Yeah, I see it like filing cabinets in your head, and they
Yeah.
get pushed to the back of the filing. You know, that filing cabinet gets pushed to the back of the room, and you got new ones in the front. Man, that filing cabinet room can be large if you got lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. You'd have your own library, your own library. So, all right, then we'll round it up. What to say for memory? Remember, keep your memory fresh. There's something about a bell that ringing of the bell keeps your memory fresh.
Do puzzles.
New puzzles, yeah. Keep your mind alive. Treat it like it's a little puppy, and you got to keep it entertained.
Give it a job.
In a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way. Don't let it go ripping up your slippers. Oh, so memories. So I want to thank you all for coming today. Is there anything anyone wants to say before we leave?
I have a very pleasant memory of this evening with all you and the conversation that we had, and I'd like to thank you for it.
Thank you, Bernays, and I want to thank you for being here and contributing and listening. Thank you.
And thank you again, everyone, for a brilliant conversation. And it looks like this week we will be paying attention to our memories as we walk through the week.
I think so. And last week certainly tested my grace and courage.
Oh, yes. Yes, it did.
So looks like next week we're walking through memory lane. And we'll get back next week and see what we remembered.
Very good point.
Exactly.
Yes, I like that. It does seem to be synchronized that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The topics.
Yeah.
Boy. All right, guys.
Okay.
Here we go down memory lane. Hey, and it could be because we are walking upon a time that is very impactful to our spirit memories. So,
Yes.
yeah.
After tonight's conversation, I can actually see some kind of convergence happening there with us all. We're all converging on a place. Feels like that anyway. So
I agree with you. And according to Cliff High, too, towards the end of October, I know he's not the god of everything, but he does bring up some interesting words. His thinking is that there's going to be events at the end of October that will signify a huge change, which is kind of interesting because we're talking about this right now. What if we all know about it already and we're remembering?
I think part of us does. It's because we're like awaiting something.
Yes.
Like we're waiting for something. Everything's running. Yeah. I agree, Sharon. There is something there. Maybe they're holding it back from us because we remember last week we were talking about if we know things before it happens, we might make an action that is impromptu and the timing's bad. Yeah. I think it feels like we're all waiting something. We can all feel it. We can smell it and hear it. We can't see it though, and it's like they don't want us to because we're gonna make some wrong move or bad timing or something like that. So it's like they're gonna pull the sheet off all at the same time, and then we go, oh look, there it is. We kind of knew it. I bet you we all say we kind of knew that. Why were we? And we'll all be going, duh, I saw that. Why didn't I think of that? Something. That's how I get it.
Well, if you think about if this event happens where we realize we're not going to go back, the timing of that has to be very particular so that we don't freak out. In other words, like you said, we're going to go, okay, because what I said tonight, we know we're not going back. We know that's not coming. And maybe we've had enough time to kind of grapple with that, right? And say, okay, we understand that. Well, if this thing happens, it's just going to be a marker for us, a confirmation. Yes. And hopefully we'll wake up some of our neighbors and friends that we're waiting, and family members, and that we're waiting for them to wake up, and that they can see, oh, you're right, we're not going back. No, we're not. Things are not going to go back. We're going to keep moving forward. As we let go of the past, we're able to create something brand new. And that is the promise of this whole event, in my opinion. That's, if there's any diamond, you know, as they say, there's a pony and all this SHIT, the pony has got to be that we rebuild for ourselves the kind of universe we all like to live in. To me, it's going to be the pony in this.
Yeah, I agree, because I know there's somewhere in me that remembers how to live the right way and
Yes.
can't wait to do it. And I've spoke to other people and they feel the same. I remember this way of living, and that's the way we should be living. And the memory is very strong. And
I just want to live in one world. I want to live in one reality. I don't want to do two realities anymore. I'm tired. Just get up in the morning and share whatever you share and be whoever you are. And it doesn't matter where you are. They can just get over it. Just one reality, right? I don't even care at this point. Boy.
That's a good one, Sharon. All right, well, I think we'll call it a night. I want to thank everyone for participating, and I want to thank you for listening. And I want to thank Creator for making it all possible. And just remember to cherish your memories and be aware of your memories, because they're there for a reason. And yeah, love to you all on this day, and remember to come back next week.
All right.
So thank you, everyone. Yalu.
Yalu.
Hello.
Hello. Toodles.
Okay, we stopped recording. I'm going to go to the toilet.